Begin, let's discuss what this means. So the objective is to know what is the test. Pose for this dispensation here. What is personal is prophetical. Is it there in history? If you can Google, maybe some people have discussed as a phrase or something. Maybe other Christians, maybe philosophy or something, or anyone. So there is, I think it came to this movement because of this one. And then they did what we call substitution. So in quickly, someone can remind us what this means in few words, what it means and how it look like. Because I think the concept we get here is actually the same concept of what this means. Anyone? Yes, ma'am. Uh-huh. Whatever affects you personally, that's what. Uh, okay, so when this came up in second wave, what happened? And then someone said, no, I think personal is political because I think it's a statement of reaction. So having something happen and say, no, 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 no. I think what happened? If someone can say in a few words. Still thinking, Sabina, then if mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Thank you. If mm-hmm. For mm-hmm. 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 So there is something politics going on, or discussions of what they understood as political you are doing this and that and this and this. But the same thing that they are mentioning, um, either influence you privately or not actually that, but they separate issues. And then they say, when you talk about money, you are affecting maybe my other parts or something like that, or they separate issues like that. So I think they were talking about what they understood as public, and when they are talking about what they understand as political issue, actually those things were private at the same time. Because if you can go to that history and you can find things to do with abortion, or you can name them issues that they were talking about in and whatever what was going on in that struggle of that time. And then when someone says, in these issues that we have said about the abortion, this is how it happens, and then someone else say, no, 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 hiyo ni ya nyumbani or something. That's a private issue. Let's talk about more serious things. So I think it was actually the same issue, which is public. Maybe you don't understand it's private, but it's private at the same time. So it's either they influence one another, which is somehow understood after some time as we go along, but actually they don't influence one another. They are the same thing. And the only way you can understand is to define what a person is and what politics is. So if you can understand when someone says I'm a politician, what they mean and what you understand of personality or a person. So I don't want to deal with that because it can be a class. But I think a politician, I stand here so that you can elect me as your representative. So those issues that we have individually is being expressed in this one person as a symbol of this constituency or something. So they are the same, those issues reflected in public sphere. So it's actually the same thing. There are no different issues that you are discussing. Even economy or something is still personal. And that's why when decisions are made to do with the economy, the pain is felt personally, not just anywhere. So directly that way. So it's the same thing. So personal is prophetical. I think it's the same thing. Any idea? I think what I want to write there, moral. What do you call what? Whether the test is moral or prophetic. Whether the test is moral or prophetic for this um, dispensation. And I think it has been agreed as it is prophetic. And my understanding is it's not that it is prophetic, it's not moral, or maybe here was moral and not prophetic, and then now it's becoming prophetic. I'm saying that's the same thing. So it is expressed in this dispensation in a prophetic way, which is the definition of prophecy as well, what you understand by prophecy and personal. What is the definition of prophecy according to Ellen White or this movement? You can shout. Anyone who knows. Definition of events. Something of events. Here is E. Okay. So the alienation of events that leads to second coming or something. Huh? COP. Well, we substitute it as history. What can we use as acronym? Clothes of art history. C of arts history. That is different with what does that mean, by the way? Clothes of art history. Where does close begin and end? I think that's the question. Maybe people could say the history ends when Christ comes, second coming, and maybe it begins somewhere else, maybe. But we understand that maybe the history ends here. Yeah. So is that a definition, by the way? So my understanding is, which I think is true, but I think prophecy should be defined, um, which everyone else can agree, whether you are a believer in church or an atheist or something. If they can give a definition of a prophecy, I think it's the same definition, which is the same thing. The definition of events is history. Yeah, let's say history. Prophecy is history in action, maybe. Us, because we believe there is second coming or something, or the world will end, we add those other things there. Delineation. Is it order? Is it order 1, 2, 3, blah, blah, blah? Therefore, it could mean when you are here, you can predict future, 3, with whatever. So I think prophecy has an element of what you are saying, prediction. You are saying it's not captured in the definition. That's wait. With prediction. They don't mean the same, but he's saying whether we can change and put prediction. So if we put prediction, what will happen? What have we left out in the definition? What is the meaning of the? Is it prophecy about? So when people hear about prophecy, they think it's about what? Predicting something. That's normally when anyone says you are a prophet, means you see what has not happened. It's happened. So what has not happened is an event here. Maybe you are here as a prophet, and you can say suggest what is going to happen here. We call prophecy. But I think based on those understanding of saying in SDA, saying prophecy shows us the past, the present, the future. So it could be, it includes everything, even at the present or something like that. Maybe that is the. So how can you know the future? Based on machine learning or understanding something going on here, and then you can catch. So there was climate change here, or weather patterns, and then it will predict future. So therefore, I think that definition seeks to include anything more than prediction. But maybe that is the something we want. We want to know what is going to happen. Is it that the intent of prophecy is that really? By understanding, I think prophecy helps you to know what you should act out, what you should choose before even you choose. So based on the study of the plants and everything like that, so they are servants here observing and you are participating. So when prophecy shows destruction in 2 ways or leading to destruction to eternal life, so you can see the characteristics, and then you can choose, and therefore you can be able to alter the how prophecy can happen. It's not fixed in a way. I leave it at there. So what is the test of this dispensation to me? What is the test, Sabina? In the one answer of here. The understanding of seventh kingdom. The test is seventh kingdom, or whether you understand seventh kingdom is whatever. You give symbols, USA or Republican or anything. How does that test? Meaning, if you are an atheist, you might not pass this test. Is that true? I know you might pass this according to me because atheists are radicals, maybe they are not sexist or something. What about this, what you call prophetical? So my understanding is does Southern understand the seven kingdom in the way that we understand either Southern or Southern accents or something? Does he understand? You think he understands? I think he understands because that's how prophecy shows he's even counterfeiting early. So I think Southern should pass the test by understanding. If understanding is the test. So I think understanding is a process or something, but I think the test is how whatever you understood makes your life to how you act out the content of whether you understand this and that, which is the same thing, which is what we call moral at some point. So whether how you understand this kingdom is nothing unless it changes, it transforms people. So the part of transformation is where the test lies, according to me, because I think there are many people who can understand this. What is the understanding is what we teach. They can teach intellectually that way, but they are still sexist, so when you say it that way, or they are still acting out like that kingdom. So they are still peaceful in nature, or something like that. So they are still oppressing others or something, even if they understand they can teach fluency. So they are not passing tests at that level, and there is no difference actually in intellect and feelings or something like that. So when you come to nature of man, it's dividing as to there is intellect somewhere and then there is feeling somewhere, but it's the same thing. Sometimes they use the art, but the art is just pumping blood or something symbolic, and you what you feel. So the prophecy should make you feel equality, at least conceptually. You act out. This is where the person is. The intellect is like the law. So I think um, understanding seven kingdom is not enough. Even Lucifer can understand. But whether you find transformation in that understanding, which is the same thing. The understanding of me of human nature is that um, you can feel something that intellectually you might be in a position of not expressing that thing well because you are still the same person. So I usually use of whether women understood patriarchy is wrong or right, they feel it. And when they say, this is what I feel, if they're honest, this is what I feel, then you can say that's actually what patriarchy is on the intellectual level. So it's when I love someone, I don't know whether people agree with this. I said when I love someone who is in patriarchy or someone in patriarchy, love people at this level, they actually love them. And when they act out, they tell you to submit or all those things, they're still in realm of love. When a man says, this is a day of buying flowers to partners or those things. So they're acting out many things, which I think that's a problem with intellect, but they're actually expressing love, even if they're you expressing in patriarchal ways or things like. So it's still genuine relationship in that way. So they buy you flowers, something. So I think at the end of the day, this one win. They came, even if the intellect is on the wrong side of the issue or something. So I think Seventh Kingdom should bring you to this level, not just understanding, but acting out or becoming an instinct in you and your nature. So my conclusion to that is that the taste here and here looks similar, but it's expressed into different ways, which are the same. So when you can view prophecy in that way and understand very well, that's not the test. The test is still, I want to say it personal. And that personal is expressed prophetically at this level because you are acting out. So the test is when I fought for something, for this kingdom, I'm failing the test. So I believe that when you fought for Trump, for example, you are failing the test at this level because what you are fighting for is those personal issues discussed there which are oppressive. So that it's not that. So atheists are passing these days prophetically without acknowledging that it's prophetic because they are protesting against this kingdom, which we call whatever that kingdom is, in action without mentioning whether it's prophetic or something. So they are not sexist and they are against voting that sexist kingdom or even protesting against. So they understand history, they can see historical events, and they can say, I think this kingdom is a repeat of monarchy in France, and which we, as religious people, call prophecy. They don't call prophecy. So that's how I feel it. So it's not necessarily supposed to be in the movement, and then you understand. So whether understanding 2024 is Sunday law or something, to me, I think atheists will pass that this whether they understand 2020. I think they understand the way we understand. I think they can acknowledge the switch. There is a turning point maybe in 2024 without saying it's prophecy, they can trace. So by understanding all that content is passing the test really. Meaning, when we hear to the 5 speakers, the thing of Sunday law or something, it's not unique to them in a way. It's everyone who can understand all those dynamics in one way or the other and can make conclusions that way, because I think people are making. So let's come back quickly to symbols. I think that can take time. What makes us to choose the Bible as the book to understand prophecy? As one of the ancient books, maybe put it that way. So there could be other ancient books, because Bible is an ancient book which contain either those philosophies we read in the Bible, those symbols or everything. So people are describing the flood, for example. With other books, you can find books in Babylon or in Jewish community describing. What makes you to choose the Bible? Because if before we go to prophecy, maybe you have to get convicted to which book to choose. Anyone? It's inspired. What is the next question, logical question for this answer? Yes. Inspired, yeah. How, the how, or something, or why? How do you know? Maybe because you are born an Adventist, or because you read fast, and then you find out that, or it says there's a verse in the Bible that says this book is inspired. Usually read in the past. Paul, speaking about the book is inspired, which is one hint. What about the other things? Yes, Sabina. Mm-hmm. What if you find another book almost same way? Or maybe you can call all of them inspired. Maybe that can be a good conclusion. So the Bible interpret itself. That's what the rule of Miller says, something like that, or what you are read. You go to another Jewish book, which says there was Eve, and then there is another woman, which refused submission. And it's the same mythical book running to explain the 5 books. So it has details or something. So I think it can be difficult unless we go with what Sabina said. Yeah. Yeah. Maybe how it was written, because people who wrote the Bible were in an oppressive level, maybe. Because Moses was in the wilderness. So you can go to all these people when they're writing this book, they're in the not in luxurious side of things. You can see, so maybe when people truth arises in the time of crisis. So when people were oppressed and they are saying testimony. So when we are oppressed in Kenya or something, how can we voice out the truth when we are saying we are protesting against this oppression? It could be writing poems or reciting songs and saying this and posting and saying this. So a form of communication. So the Bible came into existence when these people are writing the truth at a point either there was an oppression going on in the past, then they want to show what is happening. Others are either there's difficulties because Moses is going to deliver people, and therefore to narrate all this what they understood to be truth and deliverance or something. And you can trace all these other prophets, they are charging against Israel. So I don't know whether they understood whether it's inspired, but they were mentioning what they think is truthful because I'm oppressed. Yeah, unasema ukweli kama umefinywa. So I think when you feel pain and you say you are killing me and you know this is right. So they were doing in that style. So when they were writing all these things, they were testifying of what is true against what the society is going about and all that. Either mentioning this prophet is doomed, or whether this king is acting wrongly and the prophet is saying judgment is about to come to you and all those things. So I think for me that's one of the testimony. Because other books, ancient books, were written from royal palace, Alexander the Great. So they were describing how the kingdom is royal, and they were ignoring other things of oppression. So most of this book was written in that way without saying it's moral or historical. So when they are writing and they're using symbols like poems or something to illustrate something, we understand today to be metaphors in the Bible, is symbols. Sometimes they show what is right and what is wrong. That is moral issues connected with historical events. So when they are doing that, the same way we are doing today, we someone else could say the books that at least people in this movement are writing or something might be considered inspired in the future. Because what we are doing, we are trying to testify the truth in real time. And mostly we are arguing out in what actually is the truth, because I think corruption is going on or anything. Because Moses wrote the first Bible after many years. So it was difficult for maybe earlier generations to Enoch. They could try, but it was difficult because people were still, there was no more confrontation really at that point. Up to Noah, and then it came to now up to Moses. There's a physical confrontation, and you want to testify of the truth. So if we agree the Bible is, we can use it because it interprets itself. And for those reasons, why choose the book of Daniel and Revelation to explain prophecy as opposed to, I know you can use others, but I think this is in a special case to explain prophecy. Is there any reason, quick reason? I think they are the first people. They were the first group of people who chose Daniel and Revelation. Maybe Millerites. Maybe before Millerites, there were other people. Because I was seeing history, there were other people who were even as far as after that vision of John is written, they are just seeing like we can choose these books to explain. So and then it came to 1260, and there were people who are still making references here. It came to Millerites. Millerites were actually reading history as well, and they saw significance. What is that? What is the reason why you can choose this as one book according to Ellen White and focus as opposed to Ezekiel or something? Let's go. Mm-hmm. 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 I think that is true. Is there similarities in this book when it was written and this one? When this one was written, there was children of Israel, or they lost independence. They were taken somewhere, so they were under some oppressive power. Maybe this one, John at Patmos. I think it was a moment where Christians were persecuted as well, and they were. So the question which comes into mind of God's people here is whether we are helpless at this point. So people are waking up and they're asking themselves whether we can gain a moment of relief, and they understand there is a God, and they're asking whether God is on their side, even at this position. So when you ask yourself that question, the Holy Spirit comes in. So I'm saying now how I think angels of God come into the mind of Miller, or with the mind of these authors at this point. They had several questions, wanting freedom, and they're asking whether God is this way. And God comes and explains that kingdom that is oppressing them in that manner, even this point. Christians were persecuted. I think John escaped also persecution. And then at that point, he was thinking, brainstorming what is, if that God, that Jesus, which we were working with, where is he now and something. Then the angels of God came into the mind and explained those things and gave the symbols. So I think that's how God inspires even people, or what we call Sunday law speakers. They were um, thinking of something. They want to know how that is the manifestation of something here. And then if you believe God is coming in there to assist, that is how these books were written. And because of that, God used that opportunity to explain even the whole um, history from the beginning to end. Because if you have to explain why this kingdom is oppressive, the next question Daniel John will ask, why were we in theocracy in the past? What happened so that you come to another event? So makes the authors themselves to have that mindset, which they want to know further, further, and God makes it in this large scale to explain everything, even after you, Daniel, seal them. Because Daniel, I want to understand also after this, what you're talking about, these other symbols. No, no. This one comes and unseals the book, and I think they were shown also ahead in the future, things like that. So the difference between Daniel and Revelation from Ezekiel, for example, Ezekiel is giving visions of lion with how many wings or something, which is same with Daniel. But you can see the judgment of Ezekiel, Isaiah, and all the rest as what we could call dispensational. They are rebuking a certain king, or they are showing the floods which are going on in this dispensation. So they are focusing on certain periods. But this one is the whole period. So it became systematic. So when you come to writing of Daniel and John, you can see it follows order. How visions are drawn, you can see it's order and it's systematic. When you go to Ezekiel or Isaiah, you can find the judgment of a king there, and then you have to move around. It's not even in that systematic order. So it charges a certain dispensation or something. So I think these are unique because they show the what you say apocalypse. So up to the end of the world and everything. So there are three symbols we check there, and that is what are three symbols we are checking in Revelation 17 with the remaining time. One is woman. Two is and three head. Because understand these studies are going on. It's interesting. So yes, I mean the others. I didn't revise for the others. Huh? Which others, Sabina? You think there are many other symbols in that chapter? There is which others? Own, so things like that. Owns. You don't know whether there are crowns here or other things. Huh? Mountain and water. So, what is the reason why we have chosen this or why I have chosen that? What could be the reason to someone who could choose also these ones? So, in my mind, Revelation 17 was it written or it tries to explain an history when John is standing in 1798, something like that. Is that true? Can be proven later in the first start. It's John is standing here, and the symbols which are operating from that same fast or this same period, at least which one is focusing or is mentioning at this tree, because he's saying there was a beast and it's not there and he's to come, and then he's using the issue of AIDS here, and then the woman is seated on that beast, and then um, I think we can still go to the horns and all these other things, but I think these are happening fast as a matter of priority. So when you understand, when you want to understand the fullest of the beast, you have to include horns and other things. Maybe it's power. Horns means power or something. You can go to, and sometimes in other chapters, it explains these things. Yeah? So when people come to Revelation 17, they, because of that parallel of 13, 12, and Daniel, they already have an idea what horns are. So they relocate it somewhere, and mountains and water somehow. But when they come here, they see that this is the focus of this discussion. We have now the woman riding on the beast, and the heads are actually explaining something more John is now saying about owns breaking and something. It will explain as in the future, maybe 10 owns coming against the woman or things like that. So I think it could be the setting first, where we are in this history. Maybe at some point there's a lot of discussions on the horns or the what we call the 10, whatever, representation of the 10 here and something. So that could be how God unveils history, or not just God, but because we are acting out in history. So what are these symbols meaning? Woman, a woman is a human being. Let's say, for example, then um, why was man not used? Why was man not used? Because men are not prostitutes. Because this woman was a prostitute. Yeah, I think that's what the past saying. This woman is a prostitute, something. But they're actually prostitutes, or they were not prostitutes at that time. Huh? Or it's a sexist. That's true, I think. I think also, so instead of saying, because when they say human being, sometimes they mean man, most of the time in the Bible, instead of a human being. So they use the word man, which sometimes usually say it's because of patriarchy. Man generalized even children, whatever. So at this point, woman comes to generalize the opposite of which is so. But nevertheless, whether it's sexist, we see it as a human being so that it can give us to know how human being operates versus animals. I think this is a wild animal, not domestic. When they use this word beast in that chapter, and many other places in the Bible, unless they specify and then they say this is a lamb like now or something like that. But mostly by default, they are wild animals. And when you check the meaning of the beast, it's an animal, just an animal, but mostly most references by the people is an animal which is not friendly. That's why they say beastly nature. Sometimes they use beastly nature. Say this human being is becoming like a beast to show how the character behaves something. So uh, in my understanding, I think it's wild. And I think it's maybe not important to understand that way, wild animal, because I understand domestic animal by themselves as these characteristics which are almost opposite of wild. But, and then the head, what does the head represent? So in the natural, of course, because what we are doing is this, we are just understanding itself without interpreting. This is a human being, at least in my understanding, it's a wild animal. The head is part, eh? Is part of the animal. So it's, let's say, part of that animal, but it contains the difference between the head and the body. The head contains brain, my understanding, and then it contains what we call eyes, mouth. Doesn't say the brain, but it says the head, and many other things, and maybe air or other things. So mostly, yeah, as the owns as well, yeah. But maybe not necessarily because we have other wild animals without owns, but eyes, almost all of them have, or brain, or mouth, and air, and ears, which is common senses. The first common senses. So if I want to know what's happening in your brain, I can see maybe through your eyes. That's why when you talk to someone, you see their eyes as maybe the external expression of the brain. Not necessarily that you understand what they're, but you can see the movement. I think in science, you can see the connection between the brain and the eyes, and the mouth articulates what the brain is interpreting, or something like that. and the ears as well helps to hear the acumen of someone from their brain, things like that. So majorly, that's why we usually measure on the brain. So I think the head in Revelation 17 is important based on the brain, what is happening on the head, and it's expressed by these common senses, that brain activity there. Um, and that is important to understand that way. So when you come to the beast, because of time, you say, um, 7. So you say beast here, and then beast, they call it alive. And then they say, no beast. And just writing here, we have head, head, head. So in my understanding, there is no way you can have a head without a beast in the natural. Maybe William Miller will say, if it's not natural, you have to understand it somehow. But I understand there is no head without the beast. And this beast, by the way, has a head also. When you talk about the beast, it's not the body, it's everything plus the head. So in the beast, we have everything. So when you say the beast died, there is a head also, in my understanding, which is absent from the beast. And that head is still the same heads which were, when you talk about the beast here, there is a head, a head, a head, a head. And this head also is the head of that beast. I understand from the verses because they use the same thing. So when you say the beast died and the head is alive, to me it could be better if they say the body of the beast died and then the head remained. Or it's not contradiction. When you say the beast died, you mean everything plus the head. And then the parable will tell you the head is alive. So I think the head is alive, but the head is where we have ideas, really, and how we control the body and everything. So when you are a wild animal that I use, you are violent in nature because you want to conquer. If you are a lion, you want to eat, so you are manifesting things that we can see as violent. But are they really bad? I think their intent is for survival. So the intent of that violence is, I want to say, good violence of wild animals outside there. When they are fighting, they maintain territory. So the acts we can see as cruel, but they are not cruel to those animals. So in my understanding, this beast, the head of this beast without a woman, of course, I'm placing the woman aside. And I say there is an ideas running down with the beast without the woman. And the woman, well, let's replace with ideas as well, or ideology or something. So I'm saying if this ideology is absent and this piece acts on their own head without someone controlling them, that head is just for protection and for everything, for the good of the kingdom. So when we come to interpretation and when we see the kingdom itself, if peace is these kingdoms and remove the woman, that whatever is happening in that kingdom, however cruel it is, if cruelty in beastly nature is manifested in the kingdom, whether it's patriarchy or oppression, is its own way of doing things, structures, which is not necessarily intending to be bad um, at that level. And therefore, mostly when they introduce the beast, they want you to see the beastly nature, those cruelties going on, and then you can see in the spiritual, the kingdoms, how those kingdoms were manifesting oppressiveness or something. But it doesn't, in my opinion, it doesn't want you to say the kingdom itself is acting out in a wrong way, and that wrong way is the definition of what you can see in the ideology of the woman itself. I think it's for protection, however cruel it is. So when you sometimes they say, give Caesar what belongs to Caesar, you could have seen how Caesar operates in oppressive governments, but they are saying that is the kingdom and how it operates at that point in time where there's no democracy or something, but that is a representation anyway of the people, because these kings were not just selfish, they were providing some things to the people. So even though they had all those things of oppressiveness, they were like North Korea or something, not if you can use as a part of like monarchies or something today actively, really, they are still acting out in what they think is right in the administration to the people or something. When the woman comes and overrides this ideology, it gives intent because an animal is rationally instinctive. So the brain of an animal works out for protection and other things. It rationalizes a little bit for order when it says who is, when the hyenas are going down for someone who is, they think it's lion or something, so that they avoid confrontation. So the head of the beast does not have that cognitive ability like for the human. So it's the cognitive ability of the beast is I'm treating her as good. So it manifests cruelties and everything. And then the woman, when the woman comes, it intends now to use this opportunity and to manifest the oppression and everything. That's the status quo, or that is how things should happen. And that's why they were in Babylon or something in the past. You could not see the woman visibly because it could see the kingdom acting out almost the same things as ideology. So when you come, Christianity came, it came out now because it's seeing confrontation is happening, it wants to be thrown out. So I think, and then when you come to seventh kingdom, it's not easily separated as 1260 church and state or something, the way people say Trump, and then you see those stiff politicians also are representing the woman at the same time. That's why the woman is not visible in the seventh kingdom that much. If you can say, even if we can learn that, it's because the beast is acting out in that same way which the woman wants, and it keeps the intent. I think intent of purpose, because this is a struggle going on of who will win at the end of the day. So you have to have a principles going down. And then the choice of symbols, I think it's because of the principles behind what the beast is, what owns are. And those principles are like cruelty or something, and therefore they could manifest differently in different dispensation and the choice of those kingdoms. So when we come to the sixth kingdom, me, I think the beast is the beast here is no longer a wild animal. I think there is a beast because beasts represent government and everything, and there's no way in history we don't have government and governance. So that beast, the reason why John is saying this is dead is because of the characteristics of how the kingdoms were operating before and focusing on that side of things. And then John also in Revelation says there's another lamb-like beast. So I think there is a beast here which is lamb-like. I think the head, which is alive here, if the beast is dead, so the wild animal in their brain are acting out according to instinct. I want food, that's why I want to eat something. And therefore, when it becomes domestic animal, the head will reason out according to the instinct of the domestic. And that, I think, there's separation of church and state in ideologies of the head, which is alive here, which is the sixth kingdom. So I think that head, because I think this is a point where we are discussing. I think the sixth head to me is not the ideology is going on, because I think the head is ideas of the kingdom itself, not a woman. At this point, is going in contradiction with the beastly natures here. So the lamb-like beast comes, and we have the head, and that head will have ideas reflecting that body, which is against this other piece. And then they say the piece is died, and this head is USA. So I think the head here is good, even though the head being mentioned is found in the piece of that beast, that part beast, you can say. And I'm saying that part piece is not part even in the wild nature. It's only operating that way. The woman is what seals that intent of rebellion. So it's not that different, really, of how kingdoms were overthrowing one another, and then democracy came in this position. In terms of governance itself, that's how kingdoms operate, and it's not part in the same way we will mention a woman. So, anyone with a question or comment? Sabina. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Creatively. And Joy?
It's already the whole story is we've already concluded that the whole story is a symbol. So how do we see something in the story? Then I don't know if someone understands what I mean. Like already, when you come to Revelation 17, you start reading about a beast with 7 heads.
Mm-hmm.
On the onset, that's against the laws of nature. So you've already established that
It's a
story
symbol.
is figure. You should understand it figuratively. And then you come and get to verse 8. I mean, it's like when you start bringing now that rule of Mila in the sixth beast, it's like seeing a symbol within a symbol. I don't know if you understand what I mean. We've already established it's a symbol. So why are we bringing the rule again to see a symbol in another in something that we've already established is a symbol?
They think there is a repetition, like it's already a symbol.
We've already established that.
And then, because if you are saying let's take it as a symbol, it can be difficult to deduce because it will need also what will be the next step? Like if we take it as a symbol, a new symbol, or what you say. So I understand the point that it's already a symbol, and therefore when we mention the end, we interpret it based on what in my understanding I call it ideas. It's already ideas, and then the absence of the body to me seeks to represent the wild nature of that piece is not there, but the body is still there, the embodiment of government. And yeah, that's how I see it at that point. And therefore, government exists, but the woman is restrained here, the ideology of the woman. So it's like a horse which you are still driving, and then it throws you or something like that, based on in a field like this. Some pain or something, and then it throws you out, throws the woman for some time. Or maybe in at that point in 1260, maybe someone struck like Palam, the horse from the outside, which is French Revolution or something, and that situation created freedom a little bit, and then people are trying to reason for themselves, which is French Revolution, how they say goddess of reason, no longer want the woman to control us, to tell us what we do. Anyone else with any challenge? Two? So I think like in Revelation 17, it has a vacuum. It says the peace is not there. Really, there is no peace. Let's say no peace. According to the story of 17, because the story of 17, I think it's just wanting to show which was there and which is there. I don't know whether it's focusing more on. I think there is an empty slot, when we put that way. Empty slot here, and here was government, kingdoms, because peace is kingdom, let's say peace is kingdom. And here we have kingdoms as well, with the peace. Then there is an empty slot, but it uses head, of course. Head is present. So me, I separated the animal, the head and the body. So when they say the head of that piece of Revelation 17, 17 piece is present here, but the piece is dead, to me it's actually almost the whole thing is dead, but this head which is remaining, even if it's a head of a lion, wild animal, and then you plug it in the sheep, for example, which I think is a domestic animal, it will start to act out according to the instincts of the body of the sheep. So it doesn't want to kill others because it wants food. It just wants to satisfy anger by eating grass, maybe something like that. So I saw that this empty slot, when I come to Revelation 13, which gives us another sequence of 5 and 6, gives us another animal which is present as well at the same time. But it looks lamb-like, which I thought it is, as this slot should be filled by rebellious kingdom to these other kingdoms, not just to this kingdom, but to the woman itself. To me, I think this animal is, this kingdom here is not rebellious to directly the kingdoms themselves, how they operated, but they're rebellious to the woman. Separation of church and state or something. They're saying separate culture and state, the beast, at this point. So when this kingdom comes, it acts out in contradiction with the intent of the woman. It throws out the woman. And therefore, at that point, because there is no woman, there is no ideologies which try to control the other one to tell them they should do this. And then it becomes vacant and rebellious, and revolution occurred at this point, which the head of this kingdom was acting out according to the body, which is beastly nature, to suppress something. At this point, because we don't have the body and all those the instincts are different for this animal. I think that's so you are saying it can be a mistake to plug that that piece of Revelation 13 here. That's what you are trying to question, whether you can say. So if it is not here and we use the head alone to mean kingdom as well, maybe leaders or things like that at this point. So it could mean, because I think we agree here, head is USA. Is it USA? Will you say it's USA in this position? USA. Yeah? So I think if the head is USA, maybe the body is that USA, even if it's mentioned. Like I brought the body and I say it's USA as well. Five. And then one is there. Mhm. Yeah, it's the sixth. Then it's a kingdom. Okay. Yeah? So they use another symbol, the peace, no peace, peace. But it says head is there. So people are saying the head represent maybe USA, because the body, when you bring the body, it brings that picture of corruption. That piece is bad, like it's bad, maybe. Because I think that's the reason why John is saying the peace is not there, to show that it's no longer acting in that in the same way those previous kingdoms were. But me, I question why the head of that beast, because this head is the head of that beast, is there. Yeah, of the dead beast. So how can head be there when the beast is there? So I think that's the difficulty of that fast. So when people are trying to avoid the beast here, is because they already understand the beast represents, like say rebellion or something really bad. And when me, I say it is the lamb-like beast, is where I'm asking whether it's problem to pluck an empty slot from Revelation 13. Yeah. Okay. I want to write my conclusions, and then um, it can be, it's clear for to be challenged. And then number one, from that understanding, goes going. I think the beast, the beast, um, with its own head, I'm going to write. If you separate beasts differently, with its own head, acting out of in harmony. Let me say in harmony for survival. I want the body representing the necessity, the beast representing the body of the beast representing necessities. The beast want food or anything, and the reason, the head, is where we have reason, and it executes exactly that, even in a cruel way of killing other animals or something. When the woman comes and writes this piece, it forces this. So woman with comes with intent and based on control, because it's a human being controlling the animal, or persuades. I think they use nowadays based on the woman ideology. In Babylon, maybe it's using good. So maybe makes and forces its control, forces peace to its needs. We say its needs or our needs. If it's a woman, this woman, its needs, and that is opposition to God. I want to just put it that way. Opposition to God. So that's number one. Number two, I'll explain. Number three, I think the head in the sixth head, whether it's the head of that same piece, has to act out according to the needs of absent body, or absent body, absent piece, really, absent body at this point. It has nothing bad in itself. So because they no longer, so absent so body, and then I say I'm putting that body to be present, another piece as present, and this body that has needs which are not cruel in nature. And then I say it says, I think it's the sixth head with the body, with the new body, are against that, are against the woman's ideology. And therefore, by default, it exercises the opposite ideology. Peace was oppression. So let me explain, let me put that point also here. That so point number 5 is the peace in itself is neutral, not whether not in opposition to God. We say that. And I say that even the head, because the peace in itself is not opposition to it. So the only entity which makes this opposition is the woman. And then I say that while peace and domestic, my understanding, which is the lamb-like, are not bad on themselves. Whether another ones are cruel, others are not cruel. They are lambs, peaceful. Others are fighting, cruel, and they are not with. They don't have control in the jungle, and the woman goes there. I don't remember, but I think so. Either now in Q&A is to question any of those points, my understanding of that revelation. So anyone who asks any, or you don't understand what I mean. So number one is the peace with its own head, acting out in harmony for survival. So the peace, which is cruel, outside there, is only fighting for food or other things, which is fighting for food is intending to live, which is not bad. I say not bad. So the necessity, which is the same as domestic animal at that level. It's just wanting to eat and all that. So when you come to spiritual understanding to me or application, the kingdoms here without the woman element are just functioning as a part of society, how to govern society. Maybe it's conquering this, but the functionalities we are governing, making governance and everything, likened unto the beast, which is conquering other animals to hit or to protect territory. It's not part in itself, it's instincts. It's not rational mind at this point for survival, which is the same as the domestic beast. It's not that bad, even if actions can be seen as cruel and not cruel. And therefore, the bad entity to me is the woman. So the woman comes with intent and either sees what the beast is doing and I check that process either or meant it to, to, to create the operation and to maintain the status quo or something like that. And that is the only time opposition to God is seen. And then number 3 is the sixth head has to act according to the needs of absent body. So in the sixth head, the head is there with the brain, it wants to execute commands, which in previously it was to conquer other animals so that it can eat or something. But that body which wants to flesh is not there. I think the body which is there is domestic, doesn't want flesh, and therefore the head has to operate in this domestic animal which is not cruel in itself without a woman. And therefore the woman is not dying. Ideology doesn't die, that's what I say. It's there, but it doesn't have power. It doesn't have state power at this point. So it has been neglected. So the animal is working on itself and exercising human rights, I'm saying, which is opposition to, which is domestic, not wild and everything. And then 60th with the body, yeah. Peace in itself is neutral. So I'm emphasizing this also. So that I'm saying even Babylon itself, without Babylon, the religion, or Babylon, the culture, Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, or Herod are exercising good thing, even in that arrangement of their government, which was patriarchal or in a way. When say gives to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, they are really seeing that it's governance. So any question of not understanding? Let's see. And then it's your Q&A. Okay. So you can keep it to Q&A. So let's pray. Thank you, Almighty God, for giving us an opportunity to discuss as part of your people. As it seems that you have few waymarks before the deliverance from this misery. We ask that you may still be with us and guide us all through. I pray in Jesus' name. Amen.